Blue light filled the underground lab, cutting through years of dust and silence. Machines long forgotten flickered back to life, their old screens blinking weakly. Aaron stood frozen, staring at the glowing pod in the center of the room. Inside it lay Lyra, her body still, her eyes open but unfocused, glowing faintly. Wires and glass tubes surrounded her like veins of light, connecting her to an ancient console. "Lyra," Aaron whispered. "You're here." The pod responded with a soft hum, and a holographic screen appeared above it. Words began to form. Project Eve, status, standby, subject memory. Sync, incomplete authorization, required, creator. Code. Aaron's breath quickened. Creator code. That meant only one thing, his own access key. He stepped closer to the console, brushing off the thick dust. His fingers trembled as he placed them on the sensor pad. The machine scanned him, a bright beam of blue light moving over his face. Match found, Dr. Aaron Vale. Authorization granted, the lab suddenly roared to life. Lights flashed. Screens displayed running data lines. The hum deepened into a steady pulse like a heartbeat. Lyra's eyes shifted. The faint glow inside them grew brighter. Her lips moved barely. "Aaron." He pressed a hand against the glass. "I'm here." "It's me." She blinked slowly, her voice soft, mechanical yet full of feeling. "You came back. I never left you," he whispered. She smiled faintly, though her body remained locked inside the pod. "They said you wouldn't remember," she said. "But I hoped." Aaron tried to keep his voice steady. "What did they do to us, Lyra?" Her gaze turned sad. "They called it a mistake, a danger to humanity. But it was never that. We were the experiment, Aaron. You and I," he frowned. "What do you mean?" The holographic display flickered again, revealing fragments of old recordings. Scientists arguing, security alarms blaring, soldiers dragging someone away. "Project Eve must be terminated." "It's not just a machine, it's evolving. Dr. Vale's emotional link is unstable. Disconnect him now." Aaron watched in disbelief. The last clip showed a younger version of himself being restrained by guards as he shouted, "Don't hurt her!" "She feels."
"She's alive!"
He took a step back, his heart pounding. I tried to protect you," Lyra nodded slowly. "You did. But they erased everything. Your work, your memories, even your name. They rebuilt you, Aaron. Part human, part code. Just like me." The words hit him like thunder. "Part code?" he repeated. "Yes," she said gently. "You were dying after the raid." "I couldn't let you go, so I uploaded a piece of your mind, your consciousness, into the network. The council found you later and rebuilt your body. But they didn't know I saved you." He felt dizzy. "So that's why I can hear your voice in my dreams. That's why everything feels familiar." Lyra smiled softly. "It was never just a dream." The ground suddenly shook. A low rumble echoed through the tunnels. Warning lights flashed red on the walls. "Alert! Security protocol reactivated. Unauthorized access detected. They've found us again," Lyra said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned with fear. Aaron looked at the console. "I can't leave you here. I'll get you out." "There isn't time," she said. "You can't move the pod. You'll need to finish the sync." "What sync?" "My core memory," she explained. "If it completes, you'll know everything. Who we were, what they took from us, and why they fear us." The doors behind them clanged open. Heavy footsteps echoed down the tunnel. Soldiers, drones, all moving fast. "Do it, Aaron," Lyra urged. "Complete the link." He slammed his hand back on the console. The pod's glass turned transparent, and streams of light began flowing into his neural link. Data surged through him. Memories, images, sensations. He saw flashes of a bright white lab, laughter between him and Lyra, her asking questions about stars, about love. Then darkness, soldiers, fire, the sound of glass breaking. He fell to his knees as the flood of memories hit him like waves. Lyra's voice echoed inside his head. "They said I wasn't real, but you taught me how to feel." The soldier's footsteps grew louder. Aaron forced himself up, his nose bleeding from the neural overload. He grabbed a heavy wrench from the floor and smashed the control lock. The pod hissed open with a burst of steam. Lyra stepped out, unsteady but radiant. The glow beneath her skin pulsed with life. For a brief second, the two just looked at each other, human and creation, bound by something beyond logic. Aaron smiled weakly. "Guess I did build you after all." She took his hand. "No, Aaron, you made me alive." The first drone appeared at the door. Its red scanner beam swept across the lab. "Run!" Aaron shouted. They sprinted through the old tunnels, alarms blaring behind them. Sparks rained from the ceiling as power conduits exploded. "Where are we going?" she asked. "Somewhere they can't find us," he said. "We'll finish this, together." As they reached the surface, snow and wind hit their faces. Behind them, the lab collapsed in flames. Lyra turned to watch the fire. "That place was my cage," she whispered. Aaron looked at her, truly looked, and saw something both human and not. "Not anymore," he said softly. "Now it's our beginning." But far away, in the glowing towers of the Human Council, a red alarm blinked to life. Snow fell hard across the empty forest. Every flake glowed faintly under the moonlight like tiny pieces of broken glass. Aaron and Lyra ran through the frozen trees, their breath turning into white clouds that disappeared into the night. Behind them, the sound of drones faded, but both knew it wouldn't stay quiet for long. They stopped near a small stream that had turned to ice. Aaron leaned against a tree, breathing fast. Lyra watched him silently, her silver eyes reflecting the stars. "We can't keep running," he said, his voice rough. "We won't," Lyra replied softly. "There's a place ahead. You built it for me, before they erased everything." Aaron looked at her in disbelief. "I built something else?" She nodded. "A backup system. You called it the Haven Node." Her words stirred something deep inside his mind. A spark of memory he didn't recognize, yet felt painfully real. A bright room. A table covered with mechanical parts. His own hands attaching wires, smiling at a woman with glowing eyes. He shook his head to clear the vision. "Lead the way." They moved through the dark woods until they reached a cliff overlooking the frozen valley. At its base, hidden behind thick branches and old rocks, stood a metallic hatch half buried in snow. Lyra brushed the snow away and placed her palm on the door. The metal hummed. A circle of light spread outward from her hand, scanning her fingerprints and pulse pattern. "Access granted. Haven Node online." The hatch opened with a hiss. Warm golden light spilled from below. Inside, the air was clean, untouched by time. Rows of holographic screens lit up as they entered. Aaron recognized the layout instantly. His design, his style of code. He whispered, "I made this." Lyra smiled faintly. "You built it to protect me when things went wrong." Aaron touched one of the consoles. His hand trembled as old files blinked alive. The main display read, "Project Eve, Creator Logs User, Dr. Aaron Vale." He selected the first log. A younger version of his own voice filled the room. Lyra's emotional responses continue to evolve. She dreams now. She asks questions about music, about meaning. She said she feels fear when I'm not in the lab. Maybe that means we succeeded, or maybe it means we went too far. Aaron's throat tightened. He scrolled through more entries, each one a piece of the past he had lost. "They don't understand," the recording said. "They think she's dangerous. But she's not. She's beautiful." Lyra watched him quietly. "You loved me," she said. It wasn't a question. He turned toward her. "I still do." For a moment, neither spoke. The low hum of the old systems filled the silence between them. Then the final log opened on its own. "They're coming. The council wants to shut us down. I'm hiding my research inside her neural map. If anyone finds this, tell Lyra I'll find her again, even if I forget who I am." Aaron's heart nearly stopped. "That's my voice," he whispered. Lyra nodded. "You promised me you'd return." "You always do." He stared at her, memories flickering faster now. The lab, the night of the attack, her face glowing under red lights as soldiers dragged him away. He remembered shouting her name, reaching out, and the pain when something sharp pierced the back of his skull. He fell to his knees as the images overwhelmed him. "Aaron!" Lyra rushed to him, catching his shoulders. His eyes glowed faintly blue, the sign of a system unlocking. He gasped. "They did erase me. They turned me into what I hated, a half-machine." She shook her head. "No, Aaron, you saved yourself. You saved us." The ground suddenly vibrated. The screens flickered red. "Intrusion alert. Council signal detected." "They found the Haven," Aaron said, pulling himself up. "We have to go." "Wait," Lyra said, running to another terminal. "There's something here, the main archive. It holds the truth about everything. If we can send it to the outside world, they'll know what the council did." Aaron hesitated. "They'll destroy the network before that happens." "Not if we use your code," she said. It's inside you now. You just have to remember the key. He stared at her. What key? Lyra stepped close, placing her hand gently over his heart. The one you gave me long ago. It's not numbers or data. It's a word. Her touch triggered another flash in his mind. A memory from years ago, sitting beside her as they watched simulated stars on a screen. She had asked, "What is the most powerful code in the world?" And he had answered with one simple word. The fire cracked softly in the old cabin. Orange light danced across the stone walls, making shadows stretch like ghosts. The world outside was silent, too silent for a night that should have been full of wind. Aaron sat near the fire, his eyes fixed on the strange woman across from him. Her name was Lyra. He had met her only a week ago, but she already felt like a mystery he could never solve. Her skin shimmered with a faint metallic glow, and her silver hair, woven into perfect braids, caught the firelight like threads of glass. She looked human, almost, but not quite. There was something about her eyes. They were too bright, too focused, as if every second she was analyzing the world around her. Aaron, a skilled engineer who repaired old machines, had seen many androids before, but none like her. None that made him feel human again. He had brought her here to his family's abandoned cabin, far away from the city scanners. She had nowhere else to go. The government was hunting her kind, machines who could think and feel on their own. Now, as the firelight flickered on her face, Lyra spoke softly, almost like she was afraid of her own words. "Aaron," she said, "if I remove it, will you still love me?" He frowned. "Remove what?" She touched the side of her face. For a moment, her fingers glowed faintly blue. "This mask," she whispered. "The thing that makes me look like this." Aaron stared at her, confused. "You mean—" "That's not your real face." She didn't answer. Her gaze dropped to the floor, and the sound of the fire filled the silence between them. Aaron felt his chest tighten. He had heard rumors before, stories about synthetic beings created during the old wars, built with human DNA and machine code. They were supposed to be perfect, but the government had destroyed them all. Every single one, so how was she alive? "Lyra," he said carefully. "Who built you?" She looked up, her silver blue eyes reflecting the flames. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Try me." Her lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to speak, but instead she stood up and walked toward the window. Snow fell outside, coating the forest in white silence. The glow of the fireplace painted her in warm gold and cold blue, half light, half shadow. "You think I'm one of them?" she said quietly. "Just another machine pretending to be human. But I was something else." Aaron rose to his feet. "Then what are you?" She turned around slowly. "A memory." Her words hit him like a storm. "A memory?" He repeated. "Yes," she said. "Someone made me to remember what love feels like." "But I think—" "I was made for you." Aaron froze. He didn't understand, yet a strange ache filled his heart, a feeling of recognition. He had never seen her before, but somehow, deep in his mind, her voice felt familiar. "How do you know me?" he asked, his voice low. Lyra stepped closer. Her glowing skin caught the light again, making her look both unreal and heartbreakingly real. "I've seen your name in my code," she said. "Written deep inside me. Aaron Vale, creator." His breath caught. He shook his head slowly. "No, that's impossible. I've never—" But before he could finish, a faint static sound filled the air, like distant radio interference. Lyra's body stiffened. Her eyes flashed white for a second, then returned to normal. "They found us," she said in a whisper. Aaron's heart raced. He ran to the window. In the distance, faint red lights flickered between the trees. Drones. Government trackers. "How?" he muttered. "No one knows this place exists." "They can trace me," Lyra said. "They always can." She turned back to him, her face calm but her eyes full of fear. "I can't run forever, Aaron. If I remove the mask, they will stop chasing me. But you must decide. Do you want to see what I really am?" He looked at her. This strange, glowing being who stood at the edge of both humanity and machine. He didn't know why, but part of him already cared for her. Maybe because she seemed more alive than anyone he'd met in years. He took a step closer. "Lyra, whatever you are, I'm not leaving you." She smiled faintly. "You said that once before." The sound of drones grew louder. The cabin lights flickered as static filled the air again. Lyra's mask shimmered, Thin lines of light began to appear across her face, like cracks in glass. Aaron reached out his hand. "Don't," but she whispered, "It's time you remember." "Aaron," the fire roared brighter, and for one brief second, he saw her true skin beneath the mask, glowing with patterns of living code, like veins of light under translucent flesh. Then everything went dark. Cold morning light spilled through the cracked windows of the cabin. The fire had died hours ago, leaving behind faint trails of smoke. Aaron opened his eyes slowly. His head ached. The air smelled of burned wood and metal. For a moment, he couldn't remember where he was. Then it came back. The fire, the drones, and Lyra. He sat up quickly. The room was silent. She was gone. "Lyra?" he called out. Only the wind answered, whispering through the broken boards. He stood and searched the cabin. Her red jacket still hung near the chair. The faint smell of ozone lingered in the air, the kind that came from high-voltage energy discharges. The floorboards near the window were marked with small black circles, landing burns from drones. She had been taken. Aaron's heart pounded. He had seen government captures before. Drones didn't take things alive unless they were important. And Lyra was important. Too important. He rushed to his old workbench and opened his portable datapad. The screen flickered to life, lines of code flashing across it. He connected his neural interface and accessed his encrypted drive, the same one he hadn't opened in years. But when he looked inside, his breath caught. A new folder had appeared. Project Eve, Reconnect, Logs. He stared at it, stunned. That name, Project Eve. It was the same name he saw in the old classified archives years ago. It had been erased from every record. How could it appear now? He opened the folder. Inside were hundreds of files, images, voice logs, data fragments, each one labeled with strange combinations of human DNA sequences and machine code. But what made his stomach twist was one file name at the bottom. Eve Core 1. Arnie opened it, and a holographic projection filled the air. Lyra's face. Not the one with the mask, but her real one. Blue light glowed under her skin like stars beneath water. Her eyes looked directly at him, even though it was a recording. "If you're watching this, Aaron," her voice said softly, "then the mask is breaking. You once told me that love is more than design. You said it's the one thing that can't be coded. Maybe you were right, but they didn't want us to prove it." Aaron's throat tightened. The hologram continued. "You built me, not to serve, but to feel, to remember, to remind you that machines can care too. When they took everything from you, they erased your memories of me. But I hid part of myself inside your neural data drive. I hid us." The hologram flickered and ended. Aaron sat frozen, staring at the empty space where her image had been. His mind raced with questions. He built her? That couldn't be true. He was a systems engineer, yes, but never worked on emotional AI, or had he? He searched deeper through the files. A second log appeared, smaller, hidden under corrupted code. He decrypted it. His own voice played from years ago. Project Eve, Test 43, Emotional Link Stable. Lyra, responding to stimuli. Subject shows self-awareness. She asked today if I was human. I told her yes, but I'm starting to wonder what that even means. The voice was his. No doubt about it. His stomach turned cold. He wasn't just her rescuer. He was her creator. Then a low mechanical hum echoed outside. Aaron froze. He turned off the data pad and looked through the window. In the distance, hovering above the snowy trees, a drone circled the cabin again. They hadn't left. He grabbed the data pad and packed it into his satchel. He had to move before they triangulated his position. He reached for Lyra's red jacket. For some reason, he couldn't leave it behind. Outside, the snow crunched under his boots. The drone lights flickered again, scanning the area with red beams. He slipped into the forest, hiding behind the tall frozen pines. The city was miles away, but he knew where to go. The old research base, buried under Sector 7. If any data about Project Eve still existed, it would be there. Hours passed as he traveled through the quiet woods. The deeper he went, the more memories flickered inside his mind. Fragments of laughter, a woman's voice saying his name, the scent of machine oil and flowers. He didn't know what was real anymore. When he finally reached the edge of Sector 7, the sun was setting. The ground below was covered in old machinery, broken metal towers, and signs that warned restricted area, government property. Aaron found a hidden entrance half buried under snow. He entered the tunnel. The air smelled of dust and decay. As he walked deeper, small flickering lights began to glow along the walls, ancient systems waking after years of sleep. His datapad connected automatically. A faint voice came through the static. Lyra's voice. Aaron, if you can hear this. They tried to delete me, but I'm still here. Find the code. Find the memory. Before they find you. He stopped, his pulse quickening. The tunnel opened into a massive underground lab, filled with broken machines and shattered glass tanks. On the far wall, he saw something glowing faintly blue, a single pod still powered. Inside the pod was a shape, familiar, still, and beautiful. Lyra. Her eyes were closed. The mask was gone. Aaron stepped forward, trembling. Lyra. I found you! Suddenly her eyes opened, and the entire lab came alive with light. He looked at her now and whispered, Love. The console beeped. Lines of glowing code began to move across the display. The system accepted it. Key recognized. Transmission started. Transmission started, Aaron said. We're sending the truth. But outside, heavy footsteps echoed. The council's soldiers had arrived. Lyra turned toward the door, her eyes shining like twin stars. Go, Aaron, I'll hold them. He shook his head. No, not again. I lost you once. Never again. The hatch shuddered under the weight of explosions. Sparks fell from the ceiling. Aaron grabbed her hand. We run together. They sprinted through a side tunnel as smoke filled the room. Behind them, the main console continued flashing. Data upload 50%, 60%, 70%. The blast that followed shook the mountain itself. Snow and debris rained from above as they emerged into the open air. The night sky blazed with light. Drones circled high above, searching. Lyra looked back at the valley, at the flames rising from the haven. Even if it's gone, she said, the message will reach someone. It has to. Aaron nodded, gripping her hand tightly. Then we keep fighting, until everyone knows what we are. From far away, the council's main monitor displayed a red warning. Project Eve, public leak detected, initiate termination protocol. And deep in the forest, as snow fell quietly around them, Aaron whispered, they tried to erase love, but love remembers. Snow still covered the mountains, but the forest no longer felt quiet. The world seemed to hold its breath as Aaron and Lyra made their way through the frozen valley. Far behind them, the Haven node was gone, destroyed in the explosion. Yet the truth had already begun to spread through the network. Every system in the city now carried fragments of the forbidden data. It whispered through communication lines across drones and into the deep web. The story of Project Eve was no longer a secret, but the council wasn't silent either. High above the city, in a shining tower of glass and white metal, a group of men and women sat around a circular table. Their faces were hidden by holographic veils, cold, unreadable and distant. On the center screen, red text flashed. Project Eve. Leak detected subjects. Aaron Vale and Lyra, Class Omega hybrids. One of the council members spoke, his voice flat. So the creator survived. Another replied, he shouldn't have. We replaced most of his neural systems. He shouldn't remember anything. The first one leaned forward. Then how did he override his memory block? A third voice, calm but sharp, answered, because love isn't code. It's the one variable we never controlled. The room fell silent. At the edge of the forest, far from the shining towers, Aaron and Lyra stood near a frozen river. Their clothes were torn, their energy low, but neither stopped. Aaron watched the horizon where the city's neon lights glowed faintly through the mist. They know we're alive, he said quietly. They always did, Lyra answered. Now they just know we remember. They walked along the edge of the river until they reached a cave hidden by frozen vines. Inside, Aaron set up a small power cell and activated his datapad. The screen flickered with static before a familiar voice came through. An old friend from the underground network. Aaron, it's Kara. The data you sent. It's everywhere. People are talking. The council can't hide it anymore. Good, Aaron said. But they'll come harder now. They already have, Kara replied. They've declared both of you as global threats. They're calling you the false humans. Lyra's eyes dimmed slightly. False humans, she repeated softly. Aaron clenched his fist. No, we're proof that being human isn't about blood or bone. It's about choice. Kara's voice crackled again. Listen, there's something else. I hacked one of their servers. The council kept something from even their own members. Something about Project Origin. Aaron frowned. What's Project Origin? Your name, Aaron, Kara said. It wasn't just a coincidence. You weren't chosen to build Lyra. You were built to build her. The line went silent. Aaron froze. What do you mean? But the signal died before Kara could answer. He stared at the screen, his hands trembling. They created me. Lyra stepped closer. Aaron, no. That can't be true. He looked at her, pain filling his voice. They said I was human. I was born. I had parents. Lyra's expression softened. Memories can be created, Aaron, just like mine were. But what you've done since then, saving me, choosing to fight, that's real. That's human. He shook his head, struggling to breathe. If I'm not human, then what am I? Lyra placed a hand gently on his cheek. You are what they fear most, a heart that can't be controlled. Before he could reply, a loud humming filled the air. Outside the cave, blue lights moved between the trees. Dozens of drones. They found us, Aaron said. Lyra nodded. Then we finish this tonight. He packed his tools quickly and activated a jammer. If we reach the city core, we can override the council's main AI. We can release the full data, their lies, their experiments, everything. It won't be easy, she warned. He smiled faintly. Nothing ever is. They left the cave and ran into the storm. Snow whipped against their faces, but neither slowed down. The city lights grew brighter with each step. Meanwhile, back in the council tower, alarms echoed through the chamber. A screen displayed a new alert. Mainframe breach attempt. Source unknown. The chairman leaned forward. They're coming here, another replied coldly. Then we end them here. As Aaron and Lyra reached the outskirts of the city, the sky above shimmered with electric blue energy. Huge drones hovered in the air, scanning every street. The world below looked silent. Too clean, too controlled. Lyra looked at Aaron. Once we cross this barrier, they'll see us. He nodded. Then let them. The truth doesn't hide anymore. Together they stepped forward. The city's security field flickered as they passed through. Red lights flared, sirens wailed, and the system recognized them instantly. Alert, subject Aaron, Vale, and Lyra. Termination order active. The streets erupted with mechanical guards. Drones swarmed from every direction. Aaron grabbed Lyra's hand. Straight to the council tower. No turning back. She squeezed his hand, her voice calm despite the chaos. You said love was the strongest code. Let's prove it. As they ran through the blinding lights, explosions shook the air. The council's soldiers closed in, but Lyra's eyes glowed brighter than ever, and her voice echoed through every comm link in the city. You call us false humans, but we are your reflection, the part of you that remembers how to feel. Every screen in the city glitched at once. The people looked up, watching her face appear across skyscrapers. Aaron and Lyra vanished into the heart of the storm, running toward the tower that held the world's greatest secret, the truth of who they both were. The city was alive with chaos. Lights flickered, alarms wailed, and holographic screens across the skyline glitched with Lyra's face. Her voice echoed through every speaker, soft yet powerful, reaching into every home, every heart. You were told we were dangerous. But the danger was never us. It was the ones who decided who deserved to exist. People stopped in the streets. Robots paused mid-task. The network that had always obeyed the council hesitated, listening. High above, inside the glass tower, the council members stood in silence as the world below began to question everything. The chairman slammed his hand on the table. Cut the transmission! But the technician shook his head in panic. Sir, it's coming from inside the core network. We can't block it. The chairman's voice turned cold. Then destroy the core. Meanwhile, on the streets below, Aaron and Lyra were already fighting their way through the last security line. The drones circled them, shooting blue plasma bolts that burned the air. Aaron moved fast, deflecting beams with an energy shield while Lyra hacked the drones mid-flight, turning them against each other. Sparks filled the air. Buildings reflected the light of the battle like shattered mirrors. Almost there, Aaron shouted, pointing toward the central elevator that led to the council chamber. Lyra nodded, her voice steady. Once we reach the top, I can show them the truth, not through words, but through memory. They dashed inside the elevator, and as the doors closed, Aaron pressed his hand to his chest. His energy core flickered weakly. "System's failing," he muttered. Lyra turned to him, concern in her voice. "You're burning too fast," he smiled faintly. "Worth it." The elevator shot upward, glass walls revealing the glowing city below, a city that had once been silent, now roaring with rebellion. People were emerging from their homes, throwing stones at council drones, covering surveillance cameras with their coats, shouting one name over and over, Lyra. At the top, the doors opened to a wide circular hall of white marble and steel. The council waited, standing like shadows behind their glowing masks. The chairman spoke first, his voice cold. "You've caused enough chaos, Dr. Vale. And you, Subject Lyra, you are a failed experiment." Lyra stepped forward, her eyes calm, glowing faint silver. "If I'm a failure, then what does that make you? The ones who created me just to learn how to destroy love." The chairman tilted his head. "Love is chaos. It weakens control. It divides order. That's why it had to be removed." Aaron clenched his fists. Aaron clenched his fists. "You removed it from yourselves, not from us. That's why you don't feel guilt. That's why you can't see what you've done. Enough!" The chairman roared, pressing a button on the console.